Christine and Jude, I want to ask about some of the details about what's been happening on the legislative side of this issue. And maybe, Christine, let's start with you, just because you've written a lot about Utah's open enrollment policy from the standpoint of where we do really well, where we can still improve. And in fact, you recently published kind of an FAQ document on our Sutherland Insights blog about some of the legislative efforts here in Utah during the session. And we'll just note at time of recording kind of where things stand or where they're going, knowing that legislatively things move very quickly. But maybe give us some high level, Christine, of from your vantage point, where are we as a state in terms of our legislative policy when it comes to open enrollment, and what do you think needs to happen next from the state legislature at the state level to improve things?
So I mean, like we said, we have some great policies on the books, but one that Jude has talked about and I've talked about is that there's no state level report. So there is an important bill. People who care about this issue probably want to tune into what's happening with it. But HB 528, this is local school board reporting. Representative Cheryl Acton is the sponsor. And this really seeks to increase compliance at the district level and also to create that state report that we don't have currently. So, first, districts need to take the data, which, by the way, this is data they already are required to gather and to post. But now it takes it a step further and says, take that data and report it to the state board, including now a contact information for, an open enrollment specialist. And the second part of the bill is that the state needs to put forward this information so it's in aggregate of what the data looks like for all the schools, what it looks like for all the districts, even like a rate of open enrollment in the different schools and districts and things like that. And the list of contact information for the different districts. So the beauty there of having the state board post on their website is that their website already has a data gateway. It's a very common sense, predictable place that parents might go to for information already. And so to host that there would be, essentially kind of creating a one-stop shop for parents that want to look into this. It also gives this really easy statewide view of what's happening here. Because right now, again, it's not public and there's no way to look at those trends. So policymakers that are interested in this topic can look at year over year trends and make some good reforms going forward. And this is especially relevant. Utah, like a lot of the nation, right, but are seeing these noticeable enrollment declines in public schools, right? And there's a lot of discussion in Utah about school closures and where they're happening and why they're happening and things like that. This would be really important information to have as you're trying to understand that issue. So from a number of layers, like definitely parents want to have this information, but policymakers in the state will want to have this too.
Jude, how do you view that kind of that legislative discussion here in Utah about some ways to improve things? I guess maybe any thoughts on that specifically in Utah from your vantage point, and then put that in context for us with what you've seen happening in other state legislatures.
Yeah, HB 528 would definitely be a step in the right direction. It would, so every year I publish a annual open enrollment report where I review the open enrollment laws in all 50 states and update and provide scores and rankings for every state's open enrollment law. Utah scores an A- on this in this paper. HB 528 would improve that to an A. So it'd be a nice step in the right direction and put it sort of more on par with states like West Virginia and Arizona. Other states that are they're sort of thinking along the same lines would be places like New Hampshire, where they're actually just trying to catch up to Utah. So New Hampshire has a within district open enrollment law, just like Utah does, but they're considering establishing a strong cross district open enrollment law, which would probably bump them up to make them a competitor with Utah. Michigan's also thinking about this. There was a proposal in Mississippi, but unfortunately, it's dead now. But yeah, I think more states are thinking about adopting strong open enrollment laws. It just creates flexibility within the public system, and like Christina said, families really value that flexibility. I think it's really hard for families when you move into a neighborhood and you don't, if you have kids, you don't know if that school's going to be the right fit for your kid. You don't know what sort of people they're going to start hanging out with. Are they going to get bullied? Are their teachers going to be like the right sort of teachers that they need? And you don't know that till you're there. And so providing flexibility within the system so students can transfer. And in some cases, that means like ensuring that there are opportunities to transfer mid-year. A lot of states usually only have application windows once a year, which that's good. But places like Wisconsin have adopted things like a secondary application window right after that's supposed to happen around the winter break. And when state policymakers codified that law, or after they codified the law, Wisconsin is one of the states that has really good open enrollment data, sort of the sort of stuff we'd love to see happen in Utah. But you can see that the participation rate in open enrollment jumped. It's because families realize like halfway through the school year that, like the school isn't working for my kid, they need to go somewhere else, and they make that transfer. So that's just the sort of information that good open enrollment data can provide it. And you think it's great for policymakers, and they're like, oh, this bill actually made a difference in people's lives. They're using this policy. And it just doesn't, sort of go into the ether and no one knows. So I think it can guide policymakers and help them make decisions, and also help families, just get a sense for how districts are implementing their open enrollment policies. Are they doing it well? One area that Utah could also improve in would be with regard to how districts handle open enrollment denials. So what they could do, and places like California have done this, is that they provide rejected applicants with the reasons for why they were rejected in writing. Maybe it's because of the student's disciplinary record, or maybe they just don't have space for that student in their school. So that would be a step in the right direction for Utah. Or and also having like a neutral appeals process. It's never fun to appeal to the entity that rejected you. It doesn't always feel very fair. But yeah, those are some ways Utah could improve, and those are other states are considering policies like those as well.
Well, in the couple of minutes that we have left, I want to kind of ask a version of the question I always like to end podcast episodes with. So first of all, if there's anything I missed that either of you think, hey, this really is something that needs to be said in the context of this conversation, please kind of work it into your answer to make sure we covered everything. But also what I want to ask is, if we're in an elevator with the governor of Utah, maybe Christine, in your case, the governor of Utah, legislative leadership, and then Jude, in your case, just any of the other states you're working on, or kind of states broadly. If you had just a few seconds to sort of convey one key, most important message when it came to the reason why we need to, or how to improve our open enrollment policies at the state level, what's like the one big thing you would say that is just the message they need to walk away with from this discussion? Christine, we'll start with you on the state level. What's the one big thing folks at the policymaker level here in Utah need to know and remember about this issue?
Yeah. Well, our state law says that parents have the primary responsibility to be the decision maker for their kids' education. And if we believe that, we need policies that reflect that. And this policy in this bill and the ones we've described here would definitely do that. At least move us in that direction. So, and in a way, this is a common sense and simple tweak to go in that direction. I think it's worth it.
Jude, we'll give you the last word. You're in this brief conversation with policymakers at the state level. Anything you'd add to what Christine said? What's the one big takeaway for these folks?
Yeah, I think that families want to be in the driver's seat when it comes to their kids' education. And policymakers should ensure that families that want to stay within the public system can do that. You want to create a system where families have the opportunity to transfer schools to the right fit for their kids. Like I said earlier, you don't know if the school that they're assigned to is going to work out for them. You might not even have kids yet, and so you're really just gambling. This massive investment you make as a family. You don't even know if the school is going to be the right fit for your kids. So just ensuring that kids have the option to transfer to a school that's going to be a place where they'll succeed academically and in their friendships and relationships. I think that's the real key to this policy. And the data from other states really backs this up in terms of this is how families use this policy. And it just makes the public education system more family friendly when families have the option to choose within it.
Thanks for watching that clip of Defending Ideas. For the full conversation, click the link in the description and make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your shows.